Today we embark upon a build that I have a feeling many of you have been waiting for, one that uses all the fancy new hotness that AMD has bestowed upon us over the course of the last month. It's time for July's monthly build, and I think this is going to be a fun one. I know in the past some people have complained about my preamble, so let's just get right to the parts choices. This is going to work out to be about a $2,300 build when all is said and done. Although some prices are still in flux, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you build a system exactly like this. I have a few parts in the office that I've wanted to test out for some time now, so this is a good opportunity to do it. And when we get to those parts in the rundown, I'll be sure to let you know what I think would be, I guess, a more reasonable solution. Maybe the biggest example of this is the storage that I'm using for this project. Down there is Gigabyte's Aorus NVMe Gen 4 SSD with a 2TB capacity. This was sent over by AMD as part of the Ryzen 3000 Reviewers Kit, and while I've played around with it some, I haven't yet used it in a proper build. Simply put, this thing is absolutely blazing fast. It's one of only two products on the market right now that take real advantage of the new PCIe Gen 4 standard on X570 motherboards, the other being a similar Corsair SSD. As a result, it can achieve transfer speeds of 5,000 megabytes per second, or about 10 times as fast as a traditional 2.5-inch SSD. As a result, though, you'll pay the early adopter tax, and this drive is about $450. For the vast majority of folks out there, regular SSDs will still do you just fine. In everyday computing tasks, it's unlikely that you'd even notice the difference in speed. The next big price offender here might be the power supply, but that's probably only because it's pretty overkill for what we have going on here today. This is the Inwin CB 1050 watt 80 plus platinum rated PSU, and we've overshot our power target for this system build by probably 300 or 350 watts or so. This arrived in office a few months ago and I haven't yet used it for anything, so I wanted to pop its cherry in a monthly build. A more realistic choice might be something like a Seasonic Prime or an EVGA P2, both around 750 watts, and they'll run you probably about $100 less than this. Other than that, though, we don't have any huge budget leaks. This just happens to be fairly expensive, fairly new gear that hasn't yet seen any price cuts. Let's circle back to the top and look at our processor, which is the new Ryzen 9 3900X from AMD. In testing, this 12-core 24-thread monster proved its worth in both workstation applications and gaming, and although it did trail slightly behind a 9900K when it came to pure frames per second, it more than makes up for it in basically everything else, especially power efficiency and heat. It's probably not the most practical choice if all you want to do is play some Minecraft, but if you have a multi-purpose machine, it's basically the best thing you can get your hands on right now, if you can actually get your hands on it. Cooling the 3900X will be Cooler Master's new ML240P Mirage, an all-in-one liquid cooler that I had the opportunity to build myself when on the Cooler Master factory tour in China. This one right here has my name on the bottom and is the actual unit that I put together. So we probably don't want to use it because I'm picturing a scenario where I turn on my system and coolant just kind of starts shooting out everywhere. Luckily, Cooler Master sent over a unit that was put together by one of their actual skilled technicians, and it's right here, and we'll be using this one instead. We'll be building with ASRock's X570 Tai-Chi motherboard, and while almost none of the mid-range or high-end boards from this generation can be considered cheap, this is probably the most reasonably priced high-end X570 offering you'll be able to find. It's still $290, but it compares favorably in a lot of ways to the Gigabyte Aorus Master and the MSI Meg Ace, both of which cost about $370. It sports a really cool look, Wi-Fi, a heat pipe cooled VRM design, postcode display with onboard power and reset buttons, and memory support up to 4666. For our graphics card today, of course, we'll be using AMD's latest, the RX 5700 XT. The 7nm Navi architecture Architecture. The 7nm Navi architecture has proven its worth in gaming, providing a compelling 1440p option with plenty of horsepower to go ultra-wide if you prefer. The pre-launch price cuts may have been a nightmare for reviewers, but were welcomed by consumers who see this $400 option now as a real alternative to the more expensive RTX 2070 Super. The biggest issues with this particular version right here are thermals and noise, owed entirely to the blower cooler, but I suspect that partner cards will remedy these problems with better designed cooling solutions. The enclosure today will be Deepcool's new Macube 550. Now, while the names of some of these new products still kind of make me go, really? There is no denying that this is a pretty sexy case with a reasonable price. It's only about $110 and has a slick, minimalist design with anodized aluminum side panel handle that's affixed by magnets. The exterior panels are also made with what they call hot dip galvanized steel, which is supposed to be stronger than the normal case build. So I don't know about that, but it's a cool looking case for not that much, so let's check it out. And topping everything off, we'll be moving air in and around the case with Lian Li's Bora Digital fans, which use a premium feeling aluminum housing along with 16 LEDs for that fancy addressable RGB look. I almost forgot about memory, and it's G-Skill's Trident Z Royal 3600 speed kit that came again with the AMD reviewer bundle. It's supposed to work really well with AMD Ryzen, especially the 3rd gen, and hopefully we can get it up to its rated speed. But I think that about covers it. Yeah, I think that about covers it. So let's build. This was a super easy build, definitely tons of room in this case on all sides, even on the top where you can't even mount anything anyway. Cable management was no problem at all, and there was even enough room to just kind of stuff in the excess under the PSU shroud and call it a day. There were a few things that I wish were done differently, however. The first is this front mounting area for fans. Now, everything fit without issue, but the fans do overlap each other, which I don't really like the look of. Now, as far as AIO mounting, I was trying to be a little different and I wanted to have the tubes at the bottom, but this just turned out to be a bad idea. If you attempt this build, just flip this thing the right side up and move on with your life, because I don't think this looks good at all. So don't try this at home. My fault entirely, of course, so no blame on Deepcool or Coolmaster for that one. Also, this front area down here is so cavernous that it's probably better served with a 360mm radiator instead of a 240, and that's further reinforced when we look at the temperature data. This is not a good case for airflow. The front intake is limited to these tiny slits on the side of the completely closed off front panel, and that clearly is not enough. In my initial launch testing of the 3900X, it was sitting around 60°C under load, and here it was a full 20 degrees higher than that. The GPU also was running hot, but that maybe is just kind of how blower coolers roll. I would be afraid to put any serious hardware in here that needs a lot of cooling, despite the fact that the case supports a huge amount of radiator space. The radiators would just basically be creating an oven inside the chassis without the ability to draw in any fresh air. So yes, the build looks nice and performs well, but what good will that do you if you can bake cookies inside your case after a half hour of gaming? The 3900X and 5700 XT remain a potent combo for any high-end build, and one that slays at 1440p gaming. A 240 AIO probably should be enough to keep it cool without problems, so I also don't have any issues with the 240p Mirage from Cooler Master. Noise-wise though, again, this case is loud. I'm not sure if that's really the fault of the Lian Li Bora fans or the fact that this case just really has no sound deadening or sound control to it at all. I kind of lean towards the latter, but either way, I can hear it right now and it's under absolutely no stress at all. The microphone might even be able to pick it up because it's pretty loud and it's just at idle. When I was gaming on it before, when I was doing my testing, it got even worse. So not a great situation. But what do you guys think of July's monthly build? This one didn't quite go as planned, but that's why we make the videos, so you guys can learn from my mistake. Hit that like and subscribe button down there and consider supporting the channel by buying a t-shirt or a hoodie in the merchandise store linked down in the description. As always guys, thanks for watching and I will catch you in the next video.